another business day. We have 55 minutes to do current and relevant business talks. I'm Ini Jodmekwa, and this is Business Morning. We start as usual from the global space where oil prices dropped for a second consecutive session today as traders are awaiting the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine peace talks that could boost supply, while concerns over potential surplus grew amid rising inventories. By midday, prices were steady. Brent had gone up 0.34% to $62.66 a barrel, while for WTI, it went up 0.39% to $58.87 a barrel. Russia and U.S. did not reach a compromise on a possible peace deal for Ukraine after a 5-hour meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump's top envoys. And oil markets are waiting the outcome of that talks to see if a deal could lead to the removal of sanctions on Russian companies, including major oil companies Rosneft and Lukoil, which would free up restricted oil supply. And back here in Nigeria, currency outside banks climbed for the second consecutive month to 4.65 trillion naira in October as Nigeria's appetite for cash intensified. This is according to the latest reports, money and credit statistics obtained from the CBN. It rose by adding 181.71 billion to 4.47 trillion. That was in September. The uptick follows a modest increase of 14.73 billion naira in September after the indicator shed 43.44 billion between June and August. Similarly, currency in circulation rose 107.95 billion, that's about 2.12% month on month, to 5.06 trillion in October, and that's up from 4.95 trillion in September. This represents month-on-month increase of CIC, that's currency in circulation, had earlier grown by 29.57 billion after a cumulative decline of 78.16 billion between June and August. The increase signals renewed scramble for physical cash across households and businesses, despite ongoing monetary tightening by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Still staying with the Apex Bank, the CBN has revised its cash withdrawal rules, discontinuing the special authorization previously permitting individuals to withdraw 5 million naira and corporates 10 million naira once monthly, with effects from January next year. In a circular released on Tuesday, the financial markets regulator explained that previous cash policies had been introduced over the years in response to evolving circumstances. The Apex Bank says the new set of cash-related policies is designed to reduce the cost of cash management, strengthen security, and curb money laundering risks associated with the economy's heavy reliance on physical currency. According to the new withdrawal and deposit rules, individuals will be allowed to withdraw up to 500,000 naira weekly across all channels, while corporate entities will be limited to 5 million. The CBN also confirmed that all currency denominations may now be loaded in ATMs, while the over-the-counter encashment limit for the third-party check remains at 100,000 naira. Such withdrawals will also form part of the weekly withdrawal limit. It adds that deposit money banks are required to submit monthly reports on cash withdrawals above the specified limit, as well as on cash deposits, to the relevant supervisory department, and also separate accounts to warehouse processing charges collected on excess withdrawals. The CBN also mentions that revenue-generating accounts of federal government or states, as well as local government, along with accounts of microfinance banks and primary mortgage banks with commercial and non-interest banks, are exempt from the new withdrawal limits and excess withdrawal fees. Let's see how our markets, that's the domestic market in Nigeria, closed yesterday. For the first time in a while, we saw a positive close yesterday, and the all-share index closed in the green, 1.20%. There you have it. And then more than ₦1 trillion was added to the market cap. So it brought us back to the 92 trillion naira level, 92.376 trillion naira. Activity was green. We saw volume at 606.25 million. Value 39.69 and deals at 14,791. Dangote was the market leader, determining the market sentiment at the close of trade yesterday. It's gained more than 50 naira on its share. That's almost 10%, closed at 588 naira. NCR also gained. International Breweries also gained at the close of trade. Top losers were Ikeja Hotel, Legends International, and Living Trust. Top trades, Access, Zenith, and Fidelity. They were the top trades for yesterday. So we saw a positive close at the end of trade on Tuesday, but wonder if it's a dead cat bounce. We'll see the results intraday and at the close of market today. So yesterday we saw the Enugu state government presenting the proposed plan, spending plan for 2026 to the State House of Assembly. The Enugu state governor did elaborate how he intends to drive spending for 2026 in the state.
Allow me to present the changes this budget will support. The economic sector, we are allocating 868 billion, representing 61.1% of the capital expenditure to the economic sector. It's very strategic and deliberate. When we invest in agriculture, industry, and trade, we create jobs, reduce poverty, and generate revenue that strengthens the entire economy. The performance of this sector remains central to our vision of achieving a 7-fold GDP growth in Enugu State. In 2026, we will construct additional 5 new transport terminals located at Emene, Udi, Ogu, Four Corners, and Oboloafo. We also made provision for the procurement of 2,000 sedans for our city taxis. Enugu Air continues to serve as an economic enabler and a strategic platform for our emergence as a regional hub. Next year, we will acquire an additional 14 aircraft.
All right, so yesterday was a memorable one for the efforts to connect Africa and explore the almost 1.2 billion market that's available on the continent. There was that launch of the PAPSS Cowry platform. Went live yesterday, and it happened in Lagos. We hope to bring you the report soon here on the program. But first, let's speak to an individual who was there. I believe the reports, we can have the report now of that launch before we delve into the conversation.
Africa is home to more than 1 billion people and over 40 national currencies. For decades, these multiple currencies, outdated payment rails, and reliance on foreign exchange has created heavy friction for cross-border trade and commerce. In Lagos, the Cowry platform made its official debut, marking a new phase in Africa's payments evolution. Cowry, backed by PAPSS together with key continental bodies, aims to redefine how Africans pay and get paid across borders.
We want the Cowry to be that event where we come together and we discuss global, regional payments, and actually define payments in our own language as Africans. So we can actually come together and say this is what payment means for us as Africans, and this is how we want payments to look.
Nigeria has the honor of hosting the inaugural PAPSS Cowry conference. It's no coincidence. It reflects a national steadfast commitment to leadership, innovation, and advancement in the financial service sector. Today's event marks more than the commencement of a forum. It signals the birth of a new era in African payments. For too long, cross-border payments within Africa has been very slow, costly, and also dependent on foreign currency and external intermediaries. This has hampered trade, discouraged investment, and placed unnecessary obstacles, before our entrepreneurs and businesses. It runs contrary to the spirit and the aim of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which envisions a truly interconnected and prosperous Africa.
Africa's 40-plus currencies and varying regulatory regimes remain a major hurdle. While PAPSS seeks to overcome this, full adoption requires cooperation from central banks, regulators, and local financial institutions.
What has the dollar got to do with two Africans trading? What has the dollar got to do with two African countries trading? This is the fundamental question. The fundamental question that is at the heart of the economic sovereignty of our continent. It is a political economy imperative. It is a political economy question. However, for us to be able to answer the question, we must have the technology to undertake our own payments. And this is exactly what PAPSS is. And we must have the liquidity to settle our own payments.
And while the AFCFTA is advancing, it must become as easy for African firms to trade with each other as it is to trade with the rest of the world. At Afrexim Bank, our daily work is to remove those obstacles. Together with the AFCFTA Secretariat and the African Union Commission, we are building the institutional foundation of truly integrated market, supported a lot of the initiatives, adjustment fund, the transit guarantees, the enabling framework that gives life to AFCFTA, but financing remain also central. Through advisory, guarantees, syndication, project preparation, we mobilize the capital that build factories, logistic hubs, processing plants, energy systems, the backbone of Africa industrialization.
The debut of Cowry platform in Lagos may well mark the beginning of a new era, one where Africans design, own, and run their payment systems. As PAPSS scales, the promise is clear: cross-border payments that are fast, affordable, and made in Africa.
All right, so now let's get some more details from that event, and we have Gabriel Ologunwa, the AVP Global Expansion and Payment Partnership West Africa at Flutterwave, one of the partners making this PAPSS Cowry platform alive from yesterday. Hi, Gabriel. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
Great. So this is very interesting, and we need to make it work on the continent. We've been hearing of PAPSS and, easing payment system on the continent. So tell us how this is going to work.
Thank you very much. So like the Secretary General of AFCFTA just said in your report, what has the dollar got to do when two Africans are transacting? And so the objective of PAPSS is to break down the existing barriers that exist for intra-Africa transactions. And so, yes, we are Africans. There are multiple countries on the continent, but because we are one continent, we should be able to interact, with each other as though we were neighbors. And so within 54 countries, over 42 currencies, which each country having their own licensing requirements and trade rules, that is definitely a recipe for trade transaction complications. And so taking away or breaking down these trade barriers is the primary objective of PAPSS, which is simply facilitating instant settlement of transactions, of intra-Africa transactions. That's really what the objective here is.
Okay, so I guess one of the things that dollar has been doing is acting as an equalizer. And I mean, and when I say that, what I mean is, so how do we know the rate of, for instance, a naira to a cedi? If I want to have a transaction with someone in Ghana, and through PAPSS, I'm supposed to be able to do it in local currency. How do I know the exchange rate?
So excellent. So this is one of the questions that we've gotten within the industry, right? From customers, from consumers, from participants who are willing to participate within this project. And so there's been the concern that you just raised, what will now be the unifying currency for exchange. And so one of the features that PAPSS is currently building into the system right now is a situation where every treasurer, every country can quote their own rate. So, for example, I want to purchase the Kenyan shillings, right? The treasury at Flutterwave can quote their own rate to say, okay, this is the rate we would like to exchange this currency for. And as long as there is that agreement and alignment, then that can happen. And so it completely eliminates the need to initially source for dollars and then the currency exchange losses that comes with that.
Well, doesn't that sound too subjective, subjective to individual sentiments and perspective? Shouldn't this be something that's more objective and, an equal platform? Because, I mean, what if, some individuals from two countries cannot come to an agreement?
So, again, excellent question. But we are going into the era where the market should dictate the price. And so that, would naturally eliminate problems like artificial scarcity and the correspondent complications. And so if the market is able to dictate the price, eventually, it's just a matter of time, right? There will be that uniformity and even that predictability. Now, the concerns around sentiments and, making that switch from the current system to the new system, I mean, these are realities that we have to deal with when switching from an existing system to a new system. But by the time we weigh the pros and cons, we realize that the benefits of switching to, interacting with ourselves and being able to quote your own price, and then of course the entire market is quoting their price, real-time price quotes. It's just a matter of time, like I said, and the market, the entire market, and that sentiment would go away, and everybody would come to terms with the new reality.
All right. Well, I mean, certainly to be a good thing for Africa to trade among itself without the interruption from the dollar. That will obviously be a good thing. But let's also look at how it's going to work. So I'm supposed to be able to, I'm in Nigeria, and assuming you are in Kenya, I walk into my bank in Nigeria after I have gotten my Cowry, my PAPSS Cowry card, and I'm able to interact or transact, with you in Kenya. Paint the picture for us how it could work or how it should work.
Excellent. So PAPSS works as an integrated, unified marketplace, connecting every player within the ecosystem. So if a customer walks into Bank A, right, with the intention to transfer, say, 10,000 naira to a friend or a relative in Ghana, right, say for the purpose of example, say 5,000 cedis. Now, that transaction is done on the PAPSS platform. And so what then really happens is the customer in the Nigerian bank is simply debited. Now, remember, the Nigerian bank and every bank, like I said, onboarded on the system. And so you are seeing that this transaction is to be credited to the beneficiary bank. let's say a First Atlantic Bank in Ghana. So the position of the Nigerian bank is debited, and then the position of the Ghanaian bank is credited. And all of this is happening real time. Similarly, the way you have it with NIBS in Nigeria today. So just debit the position of the Nigerian bank and then credit the position of the Ghanaian banks for final credit to the beneficiary in Ghana. So it is that similar, it's that simple, and that straightforward.
And all of this is done in local currency of both countries.
Exactly, local currency, because on that platform, the exchange rate is already clearly stated, again, real time between those two currencies.
Okay, so the individual goes into the bank and gets the agreed exchange rate in the bank, just the way you get into a bank and you find, what the value of the dollar to the naira is.
Exactly. So that rate is quoted to the customer in Nigeria, and then depending on what value you want the beneficiary to get, the naira equivalent is communicated to the Nigerian customer and then, debited for that amount.
Okay, so looking at the logistics involved in all of this, we know what we've had to go through here in Nigeria to do our e-commerce, our transactions, our transfer, and even up till now, we still have some stories around that. What assurance can individuals have that, I'm not going to hear a story at the end of the day, the guy back there is not saying, I've not gotten it, meanwhile, I have already been debited from here.
Now, excellent question again. So, because every participant is a player, within the ecosystem, that is the banks, the fintechs, the regulators as well. Now, within the ecosystem, so if I'm approaching my bank, for example, the bank I'm working with, right, is my representative, my correspondent bank in that transactions, and will effectively represent my interest in that value chain, transaction chain. Likewise, if it is a fintech that you are working with or that you are initiating your transaction from, so whether it's a Flutterwave wallet or whatever kind of wallet it is you are using, Flutterwave is responsible for ensuring that your interest is protected. And then, of course, because we are all participants within that system, it is easy to have this conversation. So whether it's a refund that needs to happen, or to trace the transaction and to provide real-time feedback and update to the customer. So that, should provide the assurance and comfort and confidence that every customer would need.
So I know we're talking about payments now, but in a situation where physical transportation, delivery of commodities are concerned, at what point does that come in?
So can you take the question again, please?
So, I'm making payments. Perhaps I'm making payments for goods that should be delivered from Kenya to me in Nigeria. At what point do we consider that? Is it after the payment, before the payment, the logistics of delivery of that physical commodity?
Okay, excellent. So this really depends on the trading terms and conditions between both parties. So you could have an instance where payment needs to happen before shipment is done, or if that level of trust, exists between the partners, then shipment can happen prior to payment or concurrently as payment is happening. Again, remember that transactions on the PAPSS platform is happening instant. So debit and credit is happening instantaneously. So regardless of when both parties, the buyer and the seller, decides or agree for payment to be made, the seller, which is the recipient of the funds now, is guaranteed to get his money, as soon as it is initiated from the payer's side.
Interesting. So what's the projection now? Flutterwave obviously is a party to making it work. What's the projection? We've already seen an increase in intra-African trade. Thankfully, we hope that is sustained. So what's the trend we're expecting with this launch, and what's the projection?
It is estimated that as at today, about 54 billion transactions happen on the continent. And if you just imagine, how much that will scale if you take away all of the barriers to intra-Africa trade, we expect to see this trade volume to jump by 5x, maybe within the next 2 years, 3 years, after this has gone fully live across the 54 countries on the continent, and then maybe 10x to 50x in another 5 to 10 years. So the possibilities here are endless. Some of those things that would even come out of this project, we can't even envisage for now. But as long as that infrastructure is in place and is efficient, then anything is possible. Trust me, anything is possible.
Yeah, we do hope that the individual countries will continue to improve their infrastructure so that everybody can be part of it. But how many countries are currently on this platform?
As at today, we have 16 central banks and about 20 countries, but with over 160 plus commercial banks across the continent onboarded already. And of course, that number is growing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and this obviously should drive financial inclusion, because if you do not have an account, a bank account, you cannot be a part of it.
The objective of this project is to really make every African neighbors to each other. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in Nigeria or in Kenya or in South Africa, as long as I'm able to trade with, anybody, anywhere, seamlessly, instantaneously, it almost feels like I'm making a transfer, making a payment to someone seated beside me. So, and that is the objective. And of course, that would drive inclusion, because this seamless payment now makes it feel like everybody on the continent is a neighbor, is your next door neighbor. And so that definitely would drive financial
Well, I'm
inclusion.
glad that there's the recognition that, a dispute settlement is already imputed in the scale of
Absolutely.
things. You've already said the responsibility of the bank and all of that. Because, knowing that we're going to have teething challenges, that's the reality.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
Yes,
so,
yes.
I'm glad that you brought that up, and that has also been recognized in the midst of all of this. But thank you so much, Gabriel Ologunwa, AVP Global Expansion and Payment Partnership in West Africa, Flutterwave.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's take a break now, but when we come back, we're still on the trend of trade on the continent. Women will get a special mention after the break. Please stay with us. All right, so now we're going to continue with the conversation of trade on the continent, and this time we're going Global Trade Accelerator, and women have a special mention, as I said earlier, because we'll be speaking from an individual who's working to connect 1 million women in trade. It's an initiative, and it's actually called C1WT, Connecting 1 million women in trade. Interesting name. We have right here in the studio Michael Njoku, is the head of technology partnerships for C1WT. Hi, Michael. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
An interesting name. You know, it to catch attention of a lot of women.
Of
connecting
course,
1 million. But why 1 million? We're more than 1 million on the continent.
Well, I mean, you have to start from somewhere, right?
So I guess you're going to change your name later when you start going for 2 to 3, 5 million.
Well, the idea basically is actually we're going across 102 different countries. But the idea is to connect 1 million women across 102 different countries. So basically 10,000 per country. To start, and obviously, yeah, maybe we might change our name.
Yeah. Okay, so we saw the. I'm sure you heard a bit of the conversation that I had before you came on about PAPSS, and it's an exciting time. AFCFTA is in the air, and a lot of people are discussing it, and easing the payment system, the payment ecosystem is only going to drive that. We hope that there will be no challenge that will deter the growth of that. We've already seen good results already, you know, where the trade within the continent is increasing. So we're hoping that with things like this and initiatives such as yours, we can actually drive and maximize the African markets.
Of course. I mean, African banks are actually one of our partners. And it's important. It's about time. I mean, it made no sense basically where you be in Nigeria and you want to make payments in Ghana and you can't. You know,
or you have to go to the dollar first before you go back to the CD.
You know, it makes no sense. Well, we're Africans and we should basically be able to trade between ourselves. And I think with these different initiatives that are coming out that are helping us also do what we're trying to do. And, you know, it makes more sense. It's an interesting time for African trade, basically.
But do you think the spirit of competition, you know, among Africans and the country, do you think that will not stop us?
Well, I mean, competition is always a good thing.
It depends on the perspective. I mean, it depends on the perspective.
And that's the issue that we've had so far. There's this idea of competition that's affecting us from, you know, collaborating. And that's how it should be. There should be no competition. I mean, if someone's selling a particular product, they should be allowed to be able to come together and sell together rather than it's not a competition market. I mean, the market is competitive, but there should be more collaboration. And I think
let the winner win, or let the winner take the market space, the market share.
It's an open market.
You know,
it's an open market.
Yeah. So you guys are looking to unlock billions in women-led B2B trade across 102 countries. Why the women, and what sectors are you looking at?
So why the women first? I think, I mean, in a lot of the initiatives that have been made, women have always been overlooked. And it's important that you know that when you empower a woman, you empower a whole ecosystem, you empower a family, you empower the people that come under her. So obviously, I mean, there's a lot of things for men as well too, but I mean, I think it's important with a lot of our funding partners and people that we work with, that there are more initiatives to empower women that do trade. And if we're able to play a small part in this, then definitely, I think that's our focus. It's important to have a core focus, and then you can go from there as the case may be.
So what sectors, what women in what?
So there are no, we are no limit to the sectors. Our platform actually allows for women in every trade sector. We categorize them according to, you know, the different sectors that they are in. So there's no limit as to what. As long as you're in trade, what we're doing is we're bringing women who are already globally ready for trade.
What do you look out for to say a business, whether it's a woman or a man anyway, is ready for trade?
So actually, it's a couple of things, right? Let's say I want to trade in, you know, I have a business here in Nigeria, I want to trade in Ghana, for instance, right? There are a lot of laws that are governed, you know, exports laws. Is my product up to standard? To understand the trade routes, to understand the payment solutions, things like that. So what we're doing, we're not only focusing on women that are ready for trade. So it's three different categories. Is women who are globally ready, women who are not ready and need to scale, which our platform will help you scale and get you ready, and then organizations and partners that support women in trade as well. So we're bringing an ecosystem of everybody to say, you know what, if you're ready, come on board. If you're not, we will scale you up. And then for those people, what are the things that you need to go on trade? So you need finance, you need digital tools, you need access to credits, you need compliance, you need a platform. So we're basically bringing everything that you will need to scale your small business from wherever you are to be able to sell globally. All in one platform, all in one ecosystem, and all the partners who will be involved in that, like Affairs Bank, the banks as well, to people that give grants to women, people that offer courses or certifications. So pretty much everything that you will need, mentorship programs as well, to be around the platform, communities as well. And then
it's like a one-stop shop.
Pretty much.
I wonder who can enjoy this or what the requirements are.
Well, so I mean, the requirements is just
because I see your target is everyday Nigerian woman.
Yes. So our focus now, how we actually plan on getting this done, is basically going to already existing women associations that are enabling trade.
Oh, like cooperatives and
exactly.
all.
Because if you want to go to women one by one, I mean, that might be a tall order. But if you figure that, we have women organizations that are already offering, trade in some way, now they can basically come on board under that organization. We're also going to the government agencies as well too. So it's not just any woman on the street. You have to be in the structure already. Because again, there's KYC involved here. There's compliances that are involved that we need to make sure that you cover. So if you already belong to associations and we on board of those associations, then it makes sense. So the idea is 100 associations per country, and each association will bring 100 women as well too. So that we get 10,000 per country, and then 10,000 times 100 on 2, pretty much
and you're leveraging the digital platform. You're ahead of technology, so obviously.
So basically, we've built this ecosystem, right? We've built the digital platform, and it's basically a combination of different tech partners. Because the idea is every bank, for instance, has their own digital platform, for loans, for credits. We're integrating that. If we go to associations that also already offer courses as well to women in trade, we integrate that. So basically, it's this huge integration of multiple technology solutions. But for the user, it will just look like a simple, platform. But what we've done is that we've basically gone to each of them and put it all together. So that way, it's all seamless. And whether it's being provided by one platform or by 10 platforms, you don't know what you see is one digital platform.
So your building courses obviously come digitally.
Yes. So the platform actually has courses, certifications. It has a digital marketplace. It has access to finance. So you can apply for grants, you can apply for loans, you can apply for payment solutions. It has trade assessment tools to be able to help you scale to assess your business, mentor programs. So all these things.
Do you connect participants to AFCFTA? Because that's the core of.
Oh yes, they're one of our partners as well too. Yeah.
Interesting. But I mean, when you say your target is everyday Nigerian woman, and you're going digital this way, I wonder how you're getting the women to the digital platform. Because, infrastructure issues, access to the internet and all of that, even having devices, those are challenges, existing challenges in Nigeria.
Of course, I mean, but that's why, again, we're going to associations. And also, if you think about it, if I'm trying to do things, globally, there's no way I want to sell, a particular item here and in the US, for instance, that I would not need to connect with some global platform. So the way we would do it basically is obviously going through associations. If you have women who do not have access to these devices, they can do it via their associations. So obviously, that's the best way for us to bridge that digital gap or that gap between the different countries is with digital. Obviously, the platform also will allow connect in other ways like USSD and offline sale as well too. But at the end of the day, it's really, really important to leverage the digital platform to be able to make this happen.
Okay, so what has been, as head of technology now, in bringing all of these platforms together on a continent where we're still struggling with internet penetration and power and over that?
Well, I mean, we hear that a lot, but obviously we still have a lot of digital platforms that start thriving in the continent. So basically, the idea is there are platforms that already exist. Like for instance, you have the banking platforms, you have your sales platforms, and we just find a way to bridge all this together. And like I mentioned as well too, we're doing this with also offering USSD platforms, text SMS platforms as well to be able to bridge those gaps. But I think when you bring an association together, there's no how you say as a association of 100 women, there are no people who have computers or devices to be able to use. So I mean, I know it could be a gap, but that's why we're also trying to increase the digital penetration in different places. I think the Minister of Technology is doing a lot for that. So, hey.
And you know, the issue of connecting the continents, you also have some legalities,
Yes.
legislature, work that may need to change. Have you had any hurdle from that direction?
Well, so at the moment, our legal partners is Bangu and Igodalo, which is a huge, legal firm. So basically, with every country that we go to, there are, legal implications or compliance that we need to follow. So our legal partners basically keep us in check. They make sure that whatever country we're going to, whether it's the onboarding or the government partnerships or the legal agreements, is all covered, and there's this, credibility that comes with that. So obviously, that's how we're able to.
So you don't face hitches from connecting one country to the other, in between on the continent.
No, we haven't, not really,
Oh,
because obviously,
interesting.
because the idea is you basically do it on the country level. So let's say, for instance, I come into Nigeria.
Okay, you do it on the country level.
I understand what Nigeria needs, and we will build that. So we go to Ghana, and then we understand what Ghana needs. So basically, when we are bridging the gaps, it's almost like you're trading locally, but it's a platform that's basically international.
Yeah, because I'm asking that. I'm asking that
Yeah.
because I attended a conference recently, and we're talking about electrifying Africa. And sometimes they go into some countries, and there are some legal hurdles that that investors have to deal with,
Of course.
which gives a lot of uncertainty, to investors, and of course that's a deterring factor. So I mean, I'm glad to hear that you haven't faced that.
The funny
Connecting
thing,
the women.
The funny thing actually, because like I mentioned to you before, let's say if you want to go into a new country, it's important for you to understand the legal, structure of that country. And most people just want to go into a country without doing that. So we've done that work for you. Every country that we're deploying in, we're basically going to understand the legal structure and put together a bilateral agreement between those two countries and we're dealing with high-level government individuals here, so heads of states, NGOs. We're basically doing that so that we legislation comes from the top all the way down to facilitate this trade. And you can see with things like PAPSS and this is
Yeah, working with others.
Exactly.
So most of the time, you even get the work done by them
Pretty much,
for you, because we have AFCFTA platform and all of
much.
that. Interesting. And I'm glad that your target is the everyday Nigerian woman. So we hope that everyday Nigerian woman joins a cooperative and is able to be part of this 1 million women that you are targeting.
So please, if you are in trade and you're a woman and you want to be able to scale, I think something you should look at and basically join whatever association that you're close to. I mean, or you can go on our platform as well, and we'll be happy to be able to upscale their business and make them ready for global trade.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Michael Njobu, Head of Technology Partnerships at C1WT.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
All right, now let's take a break. When we come back, we'll go global. Please stay with us.
All right. Okay.
We go global now with Ladi Williams.
Good morning, Ini. Let's get a check now what's playing out in the global space. Now, we'll start off with fashion. We see Prada, they've announced that they've acquired Versace, bringing two major Italian luxury fashion houses under one roof. The $1.38 billion deal expands Prada's portfolio of designer brands, including Miu Miu, as it seeks to compete with rivals, including French luxury fashion conglomerate LVMH, which owns Dior and Fendi, in addition to Louis Vuitton. The move comes after designer Donatella Versace stepped down as the brand's creative chief in March after 27 years at the fashion company. Known for its glamorous styles and the iconic Medusa head logo. Prada mentions proceeds from the sale will help cut debts for Capri Holdings, Versace's former parent company. Prada's agreed price is well below the $2.15 billion that Capri Holdings paid in 2018 to acquire Versace, a brand that has since faced sluggish sales. All right, let's get a check on other matters now. After issues with top-selling jet in aviation, Airbus lowered its commercial aircraft delivery target to around 790 aircraft for 2025 due to a supplier quality issue impacting fuselage panels on its A320 family of jets. The world's largest plane maker previously expected to deliver around 820 commercial aircraft this year. The popular A320 overtook the Boeing 737 in October as the most delivered model in history. Airbus engineers have found defects on a wider set of A320 fuselage panels as they prepare to inspect hundreds of jets. A presentation to airlines seen by journalists, around 40% of the affected jets are still in assembly lines. The affected parts have the wrong thickness following a process of stretching and milling carried out by Seville-based Softec Aero, a presentation that showed that those panels were quite soft for the use. Then looking at the FX market now, the dollar has become today, though investors are looking ahead to 2026. We're starting to position for U.S. rate cuts to weigh on the greenback, while Bitcoin recouped some of its losses and hovered near a two-week high. A sharp rebound for Bitcoin helped investors get in the mood, for taking on a bit of more risk at this time. The biggest cryptocurrency by market value rose 2% today to a two-week high of about $93,000 after a 6% rise in the previous session. All right, to other matters now. After hitting a two-week high, the wider crypto market seeks a sustained recovery from a weeks-long sell-off. Bitcoin had slumped at the start of December after a woeful November when it fell more than $18,000 as record amount of money rushed out of market. Its largest dollar loss since May 2021 when a number of cryptocurrencies collapsed. The original cryptocurrency rose as much as 2.5% to about $93,900. It's still holding on. Ethereum also, struggling at this time. A major, cryptocurrencies. A lot to unpack there. We'll give you more updates on what's playing out in the market later at 1:30. Then we see a leading think tank has warned Rachel Reeves that tight government spending and higher taxes will restrict consumer expenditure. Despite its predicting the UK economy will grow at a faster pace than France, Germany, Italy next year. Analysts at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that's the OECD, they said the government's ongoing fiscal consolidation, meaning higher taxes and reduced government spending, would act as a headwind to the UK economy, with past tax and spending adjustments weighing on households' disposable income and slowing consumption. The Paris-based organization predicted that the UK economy will expand by 1.2% next year, while the big three Eurozone economies would each fail to reach 1%. The Chancellor, who's put an emphasis on growing the UK economy, announced a £26 billion worth of tax rises in its last week's budget, with measures including a freeze on income tax thresholds that will leave 1.7 million people paying more, taking the tax burden to an all-time high. And that's according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. That's the OBR. All right, the United Kingdom, they're in discussions to extend a $1 billion debt guarantee to South Africa, a crucial climate finance pledge that is nearing its expiry without having been used by Pretoria. The delay highlights the significant challenges facing South Africa's ambitious transition away from coal. $1 billion guarantee approved in late 2023 is a key component of the broader $8.3 billion Just Energy Transition Partnership, or JETP, agreed upon by South Africa and several of the world's wealthiest nations in 2021. The deal is intended to help the coal-dependent country finance its shift to a greener economy and rescue its reliance on fossil fuels. However, the deadline for the UK's guarantee is fast approaching and is set to expire at the end of the year, and South Africa has yet to activate it at this time. Now, we see China and Russia have agreed Tuesday to fully implement the important consensus reached between the two heads of state on strategic security and advance bilateral strategic coordination towards higher quality. All right, that's it on the global space.
Thanks, Ladi. And just before we go, we have to lead our DSTV viewers to Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State, at the Oyo State International Agri-Business Summit 2025. That's going on there. That's for our viewers on DSTV. And, that's it for the program. But I have to tell you what's going on for domestic market. Yesterday, we saw a surprising green close at the end of trade, and that sentiment continues in early trade. 0.07% in the green is what we have, and we have hit 145,023.60. That's our all share at this time. We'll see what the number will look like at intraday when Ladi will be back at 1:30 to give you updates from the world of business. I'm Ini John Mekwa, wishing you the best of the rest of the day.